Wouldn't surprise me if he's on a very, very short list of less than a handful of players that Dame thinks he can get to come here.
So we got McHale, Cam Johnson, Draymond. I mean, I think you have to add Giannis to that list just because there's been reports in the past, if the Bucks didn't figure things out, that Giannis would have wanted to play with Dame.
That was pre-championship, though.
That was pre-championship. But, I mean, here's the thing. If he really wants to play with Dame, just because he loves Dame's game and is a Dame fan.
I think that ship sailed. That was a long time ago.
So you think he doesn't want to play with Dame anymore?
Well, not that he doesn't want to play with Dame. I mean, you saw him at the All-Star. He was the first pick in the All-Star draft, and that kind of stuff. I just don't think he's going to leave the Bucks to play with Dame.
I don't think it's likely whatsoever, but I'm saying you can't rule it out.
I can rule it out.
I'm not ruling it out.
Okay.
I think it's a very small chance. We have a better chance of getting Wemby, but I don't think it's a non-zero chance because Dame and Giannis are boys, you know what I mean? It's not like there hasn't been anything on that front, but that was pre-championship. But also it could be something where if the Bucks struggle this year and look like they're on the downswing, we'll see. I mean, maybe Giannis sees that and is like, you know what? I still really want to play with Dame. It's not likely, but I don't think it's a non-zero chance. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Ramble video. I broke out the red sweats for this one. Why? I haven't gotten that far yet. But today, we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. And since we're talking about the Bucks, I'm going to bring out the green scarf. Okay? It's scarf time. I got the green scarf. I got the red pants, looking like a Christmas tree because it might be Christmas for the Portland Trailblazers. But first, ad read time. Are you tired of being tired? Say goodbye to restless nights and hello to a blissful slumber with Manta Sleep Mask. Crafted from ultra-soft, breathable materials, this mask is designed to block out all light and distractions while still letting your eyes breathe. There are many different types of masks to fit your needs, and you can check them all out by clicking the link in the description box below and using my promo code UPRISE on checkout for a 10% discount. Invest in your sleep with Manta Sleep Mask. Now, let's jump into the video. I left the basketball bags in the background because it was symbolic of the Milwaukee Bucks as they pack their bags. The 1 seed in the Eastern Conference has been eliminated by the Miami Heat. Whose, side note, it doesn't even feel like they're an 8 seed. Like, this should feel like a massive upset considering the Heat struggled all year long and the Bucks were dominant all year long. But, I mean, the Heat were obviously in the finals in the bubble and then were one Jimmy Butler 3 away from the finals last season. And then Jimmy Butler this year is just the greatest player who's ever played the game, apparently. And, there was a little questions about, oh, is he about to start his decline? And I don't know, he just turned into freaking prime Michael Jordan in the playoffs. You remember that Mike Korzemba video that was titled, "Is Jimmy Butler Michael Jordan's son?" And I don't really understand the joke, but I mean, I'm starting to wonder if Jimmy Butler is actually Michael Jordan's son, because that dude absolutely dominated 56 points in game 4 and then had a great performance. Clutch time, game-tying bucket on an alley-oop where he was falling down and just threw the ball at the rim and it went in. I mean, that dude is playing some special basketball right now. And the Bucks lose to the Heat in 5. Not only was it an 8-1 upset, but it was a 5-game 8-1 upset. And I feel like maybe Miami won't get enough credit because Giannis got hurt in game 1 and then missed game 2, missed game 3. But Giannis played in game 4 in Miami. Miami won. And then Giannis played in game 5 in Milwaukee at home for the Bucks, and Miami still won. So if Miami could beat Giannis in both the games that he played the entire game in both cities, I mean, you can't discredit them. And this leaves us in a position where there's finally some questions about the Milwaukee Bucks. They've been looked at as a contender the past few years. They got their championship in 2021. Of course, last year they lost in the second round in a 7-game series against the Boston Celtics. So this is back-to-back years with Milwaukee getting eliminated. You finally have some question marks now around their contender status. They were great during the regular season, so it wouldn't surprise me to see them run it back and be back here again and then see if they can make something else happen. But outside of that championship run that they went on in 2021, Milwaukee has greatly underperformed in the playoffs. And I'm not really sure why. Chris Middleton, I think, is part of that. He struggled in the playoffs before that championship run. And then after that, I mean, he's had good moments for sure, but he's kind of at the point of his career where he might be starting his decline, and he's been a little injury prone during his career. Players with a bunch of injuries seem to decline a little bit faster. Middleton might be declining a little bit faster because of the injuries he's had to deal with. And then, of course, you got Drew Holiday, who's still good, who made an all-star game this year. But can he be your number 2 offensively if Chris Middleton can't get it done? And then the bench has some good pieces, but Grayson Allen kind of sold in this game 5. Like, Pat Connaughton is solid. Joe Ingles is solid. Outside of Bobby Portis, you don't really have anyone to write home about on that Milwaukee bench. It's just not that good of a roster around Giannis anymore. Middleton, I don't think, is an all-star caliber player. I was surprised when Drew Holiday made an all-star game. Like, those two guys get it done defensively. So does Brook Lopez. But you don't have enough offensive firepower in Milwaukee. And it's gotten to the point where I'm starting to wonder if offense is really what matters in the postseason. Because, you know, like Sacramento was competitive. They had the 25th ranked defense or something like that. And we're very close to winning this series against Golden State. I don't think they get it done now. But they were up 2-0 against the defending champs, the Sacramento Kings, because their offense was great. So I'm starting to wonder if offense is more meaningful than in the past, especially this year where offense was up. You almost have to have an elite offense in order just to keep up with offense in the playoffs in the NBA, because it seems like a bunch of teams just have ridiculous offenses that are insanely efficient, and if you can't keep up with that, you're going to struggle. And then when you got a guy like Jimmy Butler who's just absolutely possessed, I mean, he outplayed Giannis even when Giannis was healthy in this series. So when that happens, I just have question marks around the Milwaukee Bucks in terms of their firepower. But this is a lead up to my whole point about the Blazers. Okay, yes, this is a Blazers channel. Don't worry, I'm going to get into the Blazers, okay? But this whole series and Milwaukee's whole situation has me wondering if Giannis Antetokounmpo might be willing or might be possibly persuaded by the right persuader to leave Milwaukee. I don't think it'll happen. I think Giannis will be back in a Buck uniform next year, and in his press conference he seemed frustrated, but he said we're going to come back next year and see if we can do a better job in the playoffs. I'm paraphrasing that, but he mentioned being back next year. But Portland's front office, I guarantee you that they have dreams of Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. I guarantee it. I guarantee you Damian Lillard has dreams of Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. Damian Lillard retweeted a tweet of a Photoshop jersey swap with Giannis in a Blazer jersey next to Dame. Okay, he of course did that last offseason with Kevin Durant. Dame isn't scared to tamper. There was also something that makes me think there's more than a 0% chance of this happening. And I was saying this before the playoffs started. I was saying, if Milwaukee gets bounced early, if they look like they're starting to decline as a team, then there is a greater than 0% chance that Giannis Antetokounmpo could potentially want out, and Portland would be on his list of destinations. Now, whenever you say greater than 0% chance, it doesn't really mean much. I mean, what's a 0.1% chance? But it's always funny saying a greater than 0% chance, and people take it as me thinking, Giannis is for sure asking out, or he's for sure going to end up in a Portland Trail Blazers uniform. That's not the case. I am not delusional, okay? but I don't think you can write it off, and I don't think the Blazers front office is writing it off, and I don't think Damian Lillard is writing it off. And there's one thing that kind of got swept under the rug a couple years ago that I'm not even sure every Blazer fan that would be watching this video right now is aware of. If you're not aware of it, and even if you are, let's just rehash this. So here's what Chris Haynes said. That is a reputable NBA source. He said in December of 2020 that if Giannis were to leave Milwaukee, I'm talking about this past summer, which would have been the 2020 offseason, before he signed the max extension, if the team didn't make the necessary moves to make Giannis feel comfortable, I believe there is a team he would have considered leaving for, and that team is the Portland Trail Blazers. Sources have told me that Giannis and Damian Lillard, they've gotten really close over the last few months, and they were talking about working out together. I want to explain how important that is to everybody. Giannis doesn't work out with anybody that's not on his team. He's turned down working out for LeBron James and turned down being part of the Space Jam 2 movie. He doesn't do that. Him and Dame were supposed to work out. I'm trying to be careful how I'm saying this. I don't want to get to saying it's recruiting. But sources have told me that the both of them were talking with each other about the possibility of what it would look like playing with each other, you know, when their contracts allowed. So I believe Dame was trying to tell Giannis about what it would look like him playing in Portland, and same vice versa, what it would look like for Dame playing in Milwaukee. Okay, so just based off this, going into this offseason, the casual NBA fan will say, oh, well, that's simple. Damian Lillard is going to be a Milwaukee Buck. You know, Dame's going to want to go help Giannis in Milwaukee. It wouldn't be Giannis wanting to come to Portland. Milwaukee's better than Portland. But what everybody fails to realize, and it just baffles me, is Milwaukee has absolutely no assets. Absolutely no assets to get a Damian Lillard trade done. If the Blazers trade Damian Lillard, it's not going to be for veterans. It's going to be for a rebuilding package. It's going to be for draft picks. It's going to be for good young players, if that ever came on the horizon, okay? But we're not even close to that yet, despite what the NBA media thinks summer after summer after summer after summer. I don't understand when they'll ever learn, but every summer we have to go through this. Oh, where's Dame gonna end up? He could get traded, and if he gets traded, or if he wants to get traded, then he would end up in one of these 6 cities. And it's like 4 big markets. It's absolutely silly, okay? So Frank Isola is a source that said Dame would be a target of the Sixers and the Raptors and the Nets and like some other team, the Heat, I think it was. And it's just like, dude, Frank Isola, what have you ever broken? Number 1. Number 2, if Dame wants to get traded, you've been saying that, and a bunch of NBA media members have been saying if he wants to get traded for years now. And guess what? He's still a Portland Trailblazer. So I don't know when people are going to learn. There was a podcast I listened to recently, Locked On Fantasy Basketball, where the host of it said that, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, Dame isn't going anywhere. Dame doesn't want to go anywhere. The Blazers are preparing for an all-in move, okay? Dame is not getting traded. Dame, after being loyal to this mess of a team, is not going to ask out when this team might finally have the assets to make an all-in move. And that is called a perfect transition or segue. I don't know which word I like better. But Portland has the assets this offseason to be a factor in any trade market for probably any star. Milwaukee does not. And that's because Milwaukee has no young players that move the needle in a Damian Lillard trade. Some Bucks fans will say, MarJon Beauchamp. MarJon Beauchamp is not a good enough young player to be relevant in a discussion for a top 10 player. If you're trying to trade for a good role player, then MarJon Beauchamp, you can talk about him being a potential piece that would interest the other team. But when you're talking about top 10 players, marginal assets like that just aren't even worthy of being in the discussion for teams, okay? Like, nobody's going to care. Like, the Blazers might say, sure, throw him in if you had the assets on top of that, but he's not going to move the needle. What moves the needles is really good young prospects and good draft picks, good first-round picks. But it's funny because it seems like Milwaukee Bucks fans forgot that they traded for Jrue Holiday, but when the Bucks traded for Jrue Holiday, they ended up with no assets left to trade. The Bucks owe their 2023 first to the LA Clippers. The Bucks, therefore, at this past year's deadline, couldn't trade their 2024 first-round pick because you can't owe picks in back-to-back years without having a first-round pick. It's the Stepien rule. Look it up. Educate yourselves about the CBA if you don't know it. But Milwaukee owes a 2025 first to New Orleans, meaning they can't trade their 2024 or 2026 first-round pick, both of which are pick swaps with the New Orleans Pelicans. They have the right to swap picks because of the Jrue Holiday trade. Okay? Milwaukee owes their 2027 first-round pick to New Orleans, so they can't trade their 2028 first. They can offer a swap, but that's meaningless. So the only first-round pick that the Bucks can trade this offseason is one of their 2029 or 2030 first-round picks. Obviously, you can't trade picks in back-to-back years, so you can only trade picks in one of those years. One first-round pick, and MarJon Beauchamp, and Chris Middleton for Damian Lillard? No chance in hell that would even not get hung up on. Like that, if I am Joe Cronin, and I get that trade offer, I am taking my phone and throwing it through the wall. Joe Cronin's a pretty big dude. I think he could throw a phone through a wall. Like, you might as well delete my number, you know? If I'm Joe Cronin, you offer me that crap. There's no chance. That's what Bucks fans think they can trade for a top 10 player. It's just, I don't understand where all these fan bases get their casualness from, or their delusion from. But yeah, Milwaukee just doesn't have a package for Damian Lillard. Even if Dame wanted to go there, it's such a bad package that even if Portland was like, yeah, Dame, we'll work with you, it would probably become a situation like, we want to work with you, but we got to get something back. And that's basically nothing. Chris Middleton's going to accept his player option of almost like $40 million next year. He is maybe a negative asset at this point. You might have to trade a first-round pick just to get off his contract. But Bucks fans think they can get back a top 10 player. That's not going to happen. On the other hand, Portland has a package that if Giannis wanted to leave, could contend for him, in my opinion. With the Bucks having traded all their future firsts, if they were to go the rebuild route, it would probably be smart for them to not go all the way bad. It would probably be smart of them to get back a couple of good players and just kind of try and retool and then get back draft picks as well. So basically, with all these unprotected picks that the Bucks have, they can't strip it all the way down. They can't rebuild that way because they won't have picks at the top of the draft. They do need young talent with upside, and they would need a player that could potentially be a star next season. Portland has the type of package to get that done. Anthony Simons, as a lead guard, put up phenomenal numbers the past year and a half. Going to Milwaukee, he could be a 25-point per game scorer next season. He's 23 years old. As a secondary guard, averaged 21 this season. He's the type of young player that would make a ton of sense for Milwaukee to get back in a trade. And then you got Shaedon Sharpe, the 7th overall pick, who I think, if that draft was redrafted, would go top 3, by the way. Because he wasn't supposed to do anything, didn't play in college, comes into the league and actually has a solid rookie season. And then when he got given the reins last year, when Portland tanked, he averaged like over 20 points per game and did it on solid efficiency at 19. He doesn't turn 20 until May 30th. The upside for him is probably past the moon. It's probably past Mars. Oh, it is somewhere out there in the universe because that dude has enormous upside and he had a great rookie season. So you got your blue chip young prospect with enormous upside, unlimited potential in Shaedon Sharpe. You got Anthony Simons, who could be a star next year and is young enough to be a part of a future timeline. And then the Blazers are likely to end up with a top 7 or 8 pick this year. They could end up with the number 1 pick, and then you're talking Wemby for Giannis. Like, that probably wins it right there. But if it's the number 2 pick or number 3 pick, you're talking about Scoot Henderson or Amen Thompson to go along with Sharp and Simons. I mean, that's a really good trio. And then Portland has ways of opening up future first. They have protections on a 2024 first owed to Chicago, but they can work around that. So you can also throw in 4 other first round picks, as the Blazers have the Knicks pick, the 23rd pick this year. That is a pretty good package. People that don't understand Shaedon Sharp won't understand how good of a package that is. People that don't understand Anthony Simons won't think that's as good of a package. I think that's a really good package. Now, it comes down to, would Giannis potentially want to go somewhere else? I think if he wanted to go somewhere else, he would want to play with Damian Lillard. And that would come down to, will Milwaukee listen to Giannis and say, we'll trade you somewhere you want to go just as long as we get a good enough package back? Because then I think that package is good enough. Of course, OKC could offer a bunch more firsts. Maybe they offer like Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams. I don't think those guys have more upside than Sharp, and I don't think either of those guys are as good as Anthony Simons is right now. So, but they have a million first-round picks there in OKC, so that's a package that could beat Portland's, but it's debatable enough that I could see if Giannis wanted to come to Portland, I could see it being a thing. That basically leaves us in a situation where there's 2 steps. The first step is Dame has to try and recruit Giannis. Dame has to try and get Giannis to want to come to Portland. If Dame can't recruit Giannis, then this is just dead on arrival. If Dame can recruit Giannis, then it becomes a situation where, will Milwaukee value where Giannis wants to go? If Dame recruits Giannis, then Portland's on the destination list. Maybe there'd be other destinations, maybe there wouldn't be, but there has been smoke before on this. So, I don't think it'll happen, but it's not a complete impossibility right now after the Bucks collapsed against the Miami Heat. And if you're Portland, you just cross your fingers on this. You don't plan for this to happen, but you're ready to pounce if the opportunity strikes. If not, then you have another plan or a list of other targets that you go after with some of the same assets potentially. Probably not all of them, because I only think you trade Sharp, Simons, and the lottery pick if you get back like a Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo type player. But, you can move one of those 3 assets, maybe 2 if it's the perfect player. And you go out there and you make that happen instead. Portland doesn't need this to happen. If they needed this to happen, I'd be even more scared, because I still don't think it's likely. I can't stress that enough, but I can't say it won't happen.